Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas. Most of you know my story. I'm a medical doctor and anesthesiologist, pain specialist by training. And I've got my good friends here, Jim Glenn and his beautiful wife, Ann. Jim is a financial advisor, and Ann is a nutritionist and personal coach. Dr. Lee Osler, who is one of the founders of AOSH, the American Academy for Oral Systemic Health. And he's Richland, Washington. And then we have the amazing Dr. Bill Williams from Atlanta, Georgia, actually a little north, Swanee, who is not only a master dentist, but he is also a master at multiple streams of income and at having side gigs. And then we're so honored tonight to have Dr. Ralph Stevens with us, who is a cell biologist. Dr. Ralph, I'm going to ask you to give a little bit of your background. Tell us, a little bit about you, where you come from, what your education is. And if you don't mind sharing, how were you introduced to redox signaling molecules? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I can do all that. Yeah, I'm from East Tennessee. I'm an old hillbilly. That's why one of my legs is shorter than the other, and I can only walk counterclockwise around the hill. But I'm proud of East Tennessee, where I came from. I tell you, I was born, bred, raised, and educated there, and got my PhD there in cell biology, actually experimental radiation cytology, in case you want to know the specifics.
That sounds good.
But from there, I went, did postdocs all over the place. University of Toronto, I was King's College up there. I worked at Fels Research Institute and Wistar Institute in Philadelphia, also Hahnemann Hospital in Philadelphia. I was visiting scientist at the University of Wyoming, visiting scientist at the Mayo Clinic. Finally ended up, you're probably guessing by now, I couldn't keep a job, right? So I finally ended up at the Ohio State University. And I was actually hired by 3 departments there, and ended up in radiology and pathology, and then finally pathology, and that's where they gave me tenure. So I was there for 20 years, and but I ran the cell culture service there. That's what I did. So for almost 40 years, all of that other experience that I had, and then the OSU experience, the Ohio State University, sorry, was all cells. I was looking at cells. I'm the type of person where you give me a microscope and a petri dish of cells, so you could put me in a closet and shut the door, and I'll be perfectly happy for days. I love cells. And one of the things I did, I compared aging cells with cancer cells. Aging cells, after about 50 divisions, they'll stop dividing. They won't die. They still crawl around the dish. They're a little overweight, but they don't die. They just will not divide anymore. And then I took cancer cells, and I do the same thing with cancer cells, and they wouldn't stop dividing. Matter of fact, they'd pile up on top of each other until they kill the ones underneath. So now I've got normal aging cells that stop dividing, and I have cancer cells that won't stop dividing. Since I was interested in cell division, I figured the answer had to be somewhere in between the stop dividing and won't stop dividing. I didn't realize at the time that what I was dealing with was signals, redox signals. I know now, okay, I know some of the rest of the story, but at the time I didn't know that the aging cells that stopped dividing lost the signal to divide. And the cancer cells that wouldn't stop dividing, they lost the signal to stop dividing. So it's all signals, no matter what you're doing. And how did I get, well, then I retired. My wife and I retired. We got an RV and we drove around the country for years. We had an estate planner called Pepper Black, and drove by our house one day. We were on the way to Jamaica to sign some papers. And before I could get out of the house, I don't know if any of you know, this is my best Pepper Black imitation. She said, "You gotta try this stuff." I said, "Okay, what is it?"
All you need is the long black hair.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll look. Where's my wig? It was around here. And so I said, well, she was my estate planner, first of all, so she knew what I could afford or not afford and this sort of thing. And I said, why? And she said, because it will really help you stay well. And I said, okay. Can it hurt me? No, can't hurt you, can't possibly hurt you. But you really got to try this stuff. I said, yeah, okay, fine. She said, give me your credit card. Did I tell you she's a business person? Did I leave that part out? Okay.
Good.
She's a wonderful business person. That's why as an estate planner, she was great for my wife and I. But I knew she was really, really serious when I started getting on the plane early in the morning, and she was standing there with 2 bottles of ASEA saying, yours won't come quick enough and you need to get on this stuff now.
That's hilarious.
So that's when I knew she was serious, even though she was only loaning me the bottles. But I did realize she was serious. So I just, I paid for it, right? So I took it like I was supposed to. And I'm sorry about my computer. It keeps flicking me off. If you like the other picture better, I can leave it on.
It is a nice picture, but you actually look better now. Yeah.
And so I don't know, I had told her that I would take it for 2 or 3 months. And I knew it wouldn't work. Okay. I really don't know what this computer is doing. I'm sorry. I've done Zoom lots of times and it's never done this before, so I apologize. But I knew it didn't work. Hey, come on, I'm a scientist, And so I didn't pay any attention. If anything was happening, of course, it was due to something else. And I was playing ping pong at the senior center in Crossville, Tennessee. We knew how to play ping pong, by the way. One of my opponents was ranked 7th in the nation. And several of the others always medaled at the Tennessee Olympics in ping pong. So we knew how to play this game, right? And a friend of mine, former Navy flight surgeon, by the way, said that I was playing with more energy and quickness than he had ever seen. Well, I was standing at the table. I usually play one game and I have to go get a drink of water or something. And he's right. I just played 4 or 5 games and I wasn't the least bit winded. My legs were fine. My arms were fine. And he was right. There was something different. And he said, are you on anything? And I said, well, yeah, I take multivitamins. I take fish oil and ASEA. He said, what's ASEA? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. So I went home, put down my remote control, put down my bowl of popcorn, got out of my lazy chair, went to the computer, went to pubmed.gov, and I go like, what is this stuff I've been drinking? And I found out the rest of the story. I had been studying reactive oxygen species. I've been studying free radicals, the bad stuff, free radicals, and what their effect was on cells for many, many, many years. But I found out that redox signaling molecules aren't the bad guys. Matter of fact, they're the good guys. Nothing good happens without redox signaling molecules. And so I found out what I had been studying all of these years was one side of the story. And now I knew the rest of the story. So that's why I'm still here talking about redox signaling molecules, those things you find in little blue bottles of ASEA. Okay, Maureen?
That's amazing. And I love what you say, when you talked about the cell lines, and we all know that cancer cells are somewhat immortal because they shut off the signal for apoptosis or self-destruction. But the cells, the aging cells, when you said that they just stop replicating, do they stop replicating and then they die? I understand they get fat. Who doesn't? But do they just stop when they stop replicating? Do they then die? Does this have to do not only with signaling, but also with telomeres maybe? How does that work?
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, when these cells stop dividing, we call them senescence. And as a matter of fact, the telomeres are quite short at that time, at that point, but they don't die. Okay. They're still alive. They still move around the bottom of the dish. And Jim, I'm sorry, I really
Don't worry
don't know
about it.
what's
Just-
going on here.
Okay.
I don't want it to distract you, so just keep on going.
I'll just leave this one on
Yeah.
until you have to see my smiling face, or I have to make a face. But no, I didn't say that telomeres cause it. I'm telling you, that's what we found, okay, at that point. Okay,
Interesting.
I'm not doing a cause and effect type thing.
Well, this must have been right up your alley. I know when I was first introduced to it, and I had never heard that verbiage with redox signaling. And, I don't know if Dr. Lee or Dr. Bill had, I went to I graduated from medical school 30 years ago. So, it wasn't something that was talked about back then. Of course, we all know about the Krebs cycle, and, that's all that causes PTSD and all of us, I think.
Fun stuff. Yeah, all the fun stuff, right?
Yeah, kind of crazy. But this must have been right up your alley. I know I found the science extremely compelling, and I kept going back to PubMed and different areas. How did you reconcile that science? Because somebody hands you something, Pepper hands you these two bottles, and on the back of the bottle it says, distilled water and salt. And I remember, my first thing was, I live on the Gulf Coast. I don't need to pay anybody for salt water. I'm surrounded by it, and honestly thought, what else do we need to know about salt water? Our bodies are primarily comprised of it, but, I was like, I don't understand this. But when I actually went and looked into it, I was fascinated by the science, and I was fascinated by how many different references there were and how many different abstracts I was reading. And it just really kind of drew me in. I imagine as a cell biologist, knowing more about the function, because of course we all learn that, but it's not anything I used in my day-to-day practice. Tell me a little bit about how you validated that science, and what were you looking at that made you feel secure with that you really had your hands on something?
Okay, first of all, I didn't have to validate it. My ping pong game validated it.
Okay.
I just had to figure out why, all right? And that's why I went to pubmed.gov to try to figure out, why, what in the world is happening? And since I had been studying half of the story, I already knew about redox, especially the reactive oxygen species, what we call the free radicals. I even built my own X-ray machine so I could set it right there on my bench so I could irradiate cells and study them immediately after they were X-rayed. And of course, the X-rays are not doing the damage. X-rays are causing free radicals, and it's the free radicals that the X-rays cause that are doing the damage, right?
Okay.
So all of this stuff just kind of fell in place. I already had all this stuff in my head, so it wasn't a matter of reconciling it, because I had been there for almost 40 years. The very first thing I saw was a sea urchin egg. Okay, I mixed eggs and sperm with free sea urchin eggs, and I sit there and I watch the sea urchin egg change colors as soon as the sperm hit it. Okay, and I go, well, that's interesting. The whole egg, outside the egg, changed colors. That's interesting. And then as I watched, I saw a dimple form in one side of the egg, and then it spread around the entire egg and then constricted like a purse string. And there was 2 cells there. There had been 1 cell before, and now there was 2 cells. And when I saw that, that was the rest of my life.
Wow.
When I saw 1 cell go to 2 cells, I said, how did it do that? And that's what I spent the rest of my professional life doing. I wanted to know how it did that. All right. And now I've got a much better handle on it. I even know why the outside of that cell changed colors when a sperm hit it. It was hydrogen peroxide on the inside of that cell. And as soon as the sperm hit it, bam, okay, there was an explosion around the inside of that cell membrane, and it changed its chemistry. It's
Wow.
redox signaling, folks.
That's fascinating.
I had been there. I just didn't know I was there, okay?
I have to point out, and guys, please feel free to jump in, because I know, Dr. Lee, you are amazing with antioxidants, and Bill, you have such an incredible fund of knowledge too. But I'm sitting here and I'm listening, and I hope for the people who are also listening, here is an incredibly learned scientist, bench research, PhD, tenured position. And your validation came from your personal product experience. So you
Yes.
had product experience, and then you backed it up with the science that you already had an incredible fund of knowledge about. So you
Absolutely.
understood what was happening. So, you know, that's really interesting because so many people almost have to be convinced of the science, which is really interesting, before they will take the product. They feel like they need to understand it before they take it or before they refer it to other people. So, but I love this. This is really refreshing, you know, that you, first of all, you must have really trusted Pepper because she hands you these 2 bottles and you just went, you know, that says a lot for Pepper. So you just went ahead and took it, and then
I
you
did
had that
trust her.
amazing result.
She was my estate planner. I trusted her absolutely.
You would have had to, absolutely. Wow, that's pretty amazing. So, fellas, you know, any questions? Any
I know Lee
comments?
does.
Amazing.
I can see it in Lee's face.
I know, he's fighting. We know we're going to get to NRF2. Go, Lee, go.
I have been looking forward to this for such a long time because, you know, I've understood that molecular biology was at the root of this. And I had the similar experience after my wife's initial response to this, and I knew there had to be something to this. I'm the OCD guy that, while I'm not a molecular biologist by any method, I need to know where the electrons move and why, because once I understand that, then my heart can follow. It's just the way I'm wired. And so my question to you is, as a molecular biologist, maybe you could do a couple of things here. Tell us in a molecular biology with that industry or the sciences that are going on there, was it as unknown as you're displaying or you're describing your experiences? Was that typical of the whole molecular biology science and so forth? And what made this breakthrough, the stabilizing? I'm not asking you how they did it, but it's like, what was the impact of that in the molecular biology science realm?
Well, I think that's an ongoing thing, Dr. Lee. It's not over. I think it's just started as far as scientists and research is concerned. And in the molecular biology field, there's still things about the signaling itself that we do not understand. Okay, we got cause and effect, and you can't deny the cause and effect. But there's still some small chemical changes about the signaling that we do not understand. I just looked a while ago, there's 32,000 articles published on PubMed.gov about redox signaling. So I said, okay, maybe we got it now, right? No, we don't got it now. Okay, so there's still a lot we don't know, and there still seem to be more concerned about the problems of reactive oxygen species instead of the good health. All right, so it's still weighted to the bad guys. All right, it's changing. It's slowly changing. And that's wonderful, all right? And hopefully we can add to that change. And Dr. Hayes' husband can certainly add to that change. But it's still weighted on the bad guys, the reactive oxygen species and the oxidative stress.
So where do you think it's going, Ralph?
Well, you know, we've got this mechanical, chemical, electrical machine we call our body, right? And there's a lot about each of those components that we're not aware. That you want to know about the miracle, that's the miracle, the way we were created with a mechanical, chemical, and electrical components all put together, and it works. I don't know why, but it works, all right? And it requires lots of grease, lots of oil, an occasional checkups, changing the spark plugs every once in a while. So it and the battery's got to be charged. You got to do, and you still have to take care of this machine. all right? But where it's going is we're finding out more and more and more what components have to be taken care of and how the components work. We don't know it all yet. I don't know that we'll ever know it all, but we're learning more about how it works and the tools that are necessary to make it work. And of course, we're talking today about one of the most important tools there is. And I don't, everybody in PubMed.gov, redox signaling is a very common term, but they're talking about the ox more than they are the read in the redox. But we're getting there.
Dr. Stevens, can you shed any light on the gut bacteria contribution to the redox signaling? I've read recently that many of the redox signaling molecules are actually created in the gut. The bacteria's got a part of that. And how does the good bacteria and the bad bacteria respond to the ASEA Redox molecule?
Oh, you want me to tell you something that you already know. And I can give you in a personal experience that, right? Okay, I got a bacterial infection one time, and the doctors gave me an antibiotic, and it killed all my good stuff, and my bad stuff took over. And it was bad. I was going from both ends. I had buckets set all over the house because I never knew when I would need them. Luckily, I made it to the ER because the ER was only 5 minutes from the house when I lived in Crossville, Tennessee. And they were able to give me some good stuff for my gut, all right? So I could balance that, and trust me, I really like this biome we're taking right now for just that reason. But yeah, no, these bacteria are making redox signaling molecules. Now, here's something else we don't know, and it's the question that you ask. How does your body know what the good guys are and what the bad guys are? And we don't know the answer to that question either. We do know we can kill off one side or the other. We can, and neither of those choices are good choices, especially killing off the good guys. But they're very important, and we're learning more and more. I don't know about the gut and the immune system and stuff like that, but we're learning more and more and more about that. And those redox molecules that are coming from our good bacteria in our gut are going to play, we're going to learn more and more the importance of the redox homeostasis that they're putting out as far as their body is concerned. I know very little about this right now, but it's an exciting area of research, I can tell you that.
Okay, Dr. Ralph.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
am not a doctor. Everybody else on here is doctors, right? We're not.
Dr. Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, well, my dad was, and I can sometimes play a doctor, but I'm not really a doctor.
Okay, on
Oh.
TV.
Yeah, no, I used to have to hang up, or when the patients would call my dad at home, I used to have to, and my dad's right there, and it's like, no, my dad isn't here, because they were calling him into the hospital to do his surgery. So a lot of people here and that will listen to this conversation, they don't know what these molecules that we're even talking about. Can you give us a simple description that people can understand what is this and what is it doing for us?
Okay, the answer, as you put it, is really quite simple. And we use words like fundamental and stuff like that. And usually these words just kind of roll off everybody's tongue, fundamental, but that's a very important term. Nothing in your body happens unless it's told to happen. All right. In other words, it has to be signaled to happen. And you could do NASCAR, and they're waving a flag. That's a signal. Something happens. Nothing happens unless there's a signal. You can have a race at the Olympics or whatever, and they shoot off a gun and something starts happening. It doesn't happen unless that gun goes off. That's a signal. All right. When we are talking about redox signaling molecules, we're talking about that type of signal, an absolute fundamental signal. If that signal is there, nothing happens in your body. Now, these molecules are made in the mitochondria, so your mitochondria is making ATP. So these molecules signal something to happen, and then the ATP, which is the energy molecule, processes the energy to go ahead and finish whatever processes they are. But they processes don't even start without a signal. And that signal comes from redox signaling molecules. And it is really, honestly, that simple. It's the flag, it's the starter's gun. It don't happen without a signal. Yes, Ann?
Oh, I loved how you said the starter gun. But
Oh.
when you think about it, we all have aging in common. And so if we're losing redox signaling at puberty and on, and we're losing 10% every year, it's even more vital at 30 and 40 and 50. Now we're losing more redox. And when I hear people saying they're using a minimum dose, maybe that's all they can do. But I try to stress, if you're getting older, you need more signaling because you're losing it. So you need to use more Renew 28, more ASEA, spray more in those eyes. And it's hard sometimes to convince people that, okay, the bottle says 4 ounces, twice a day, take 2, the caps, but to get them to see that, like I'm 55, I take at least 6-7 ounces a day, just because I know I'm losing my redox every single year. So, I guess try to stress that to people that, you're getting older, so you do need more of these because you've lost them.
Okay, you're losing them for a variety of reasons. One is with time, there are mistakes made in the DNA. Mitochondria have DNA, which code for a lot of the molecules that are made there and the processes that happen inside the mitochondria. And as that DNA is damaged, then it's less efficient, okay? So you have the mitochondria becoming less efficient with age because of genetic damage. Now your nucleus in the cell has a much more complete repair system than the mitochondria does. So it's not as big a problem in the nucleus. And the mitochondria doesn't have a very robust repair system. So when mistakes are made, quite often they're not repaired, and then these processes are not as efficient. Some of those processes, by the way, are the division of the mitochondria. When a cell divides, you can see that you've got to have more mitochondria. Now you've got to have X number of mitochondria in cell 1 and X number of mitochondria in cell 2. So if the division of the mitochondria is not as efficient, then you're going to have less and less numbers of mitochondria in the cell. So now, one, you have less efficient mitochondria because of DNA damage, and you don't have as many mitochondria. So yes, with age of the individual, chronological age, and they've done an estimate that it goes down about 10% per decade. And I'm 79 years old, so I've been through a few of those iterations. It takes more to bump up. Now, everybody's not the same. Some people my age require more than I do. Some people my age will not require as much. And you can play around with how much you're drinking and how you're feeling and how you're repairing and stuff like that. But generally, you're right. If you're over 50 and you're still in good health, you still probably should go above the 4. You should be up to 6 or 8 probably. And if you have problems, and I have had problems, then you may want to go a little higher. Or if you're working on a specific problem, okay, bump it way on up there, 16 ounces or above, okay, until you get that problem taken care of. And I've done things like that too. And then you can back off a little bit. So, everybody's different. So you have to work with your own machine, your own mechanical, electrical, chemical machine. It's yours.
Exactly. That's awesome. It's awesome.
Go ahead.
Do you think we'll ever get a quantitative analysis for the age of a person to correlate with how much redox signaling molecule is native to the body? So we have a way to judge how much we might need in a supplement form?
No, but I can tell you that 20 years ago, somebody working with ASEA was able to determine the redox signaling molecules in the bloodstream of a mouse or a rat. I forget which it was. I can't find that research anymore. But it was never moved over to the human condition. I did read something in PubMed today that it seems like they're now able to determine the number of redox signaling molecules that are in the bloodstream. So we may be getting a better handle, a better quantitative handle. Right now, there's a kind of a rule of thumb, you know, that half-life is about 15 minutes, and within a few hours, the redox signaling molecules that you drink is completely gone from your body. But that's just kind of a rule of thumb. We don't have a quantitative analysis of that right now.
Yeah, that's
Does
awesome.
that help?
There's a really interesting question, if you don't mind speaking to this. It says, is there any suppression of natural redox because you're supplementing externally with ASEA? That is, can it become habit forming? So no negative feedback loop that we're aware of, right?
There's no toxicity. This is what they call a native product. So all you're doing is supplementing the same molecules that your body is already making, and your body is not making enough for one reason or another. Then all you do is try to bump up those numbers that your body needs of exactly the same molecules that your body needs. So no, there's no backlash. There's no problem. It's as far as I know, there's been absolutely zero toxicity determined with this native product.
Well, it's absolutely habit forming. It's absolutely habit forming for me, because if I'm at about 8 to 9 ounces a day. I started off at 8 5 years ago, but if I go down to 6, my body tells me really quick. So is it a habit forming? Yes.
I'm glad you came back to that. If it's not habit forming, Dr. Marine, it should be. Okay. It is something that you need to continually do. Okay. Your body needs it. All right.
Absolutely.
You can choose to do it or not do it.
Yeah, if you want to function the way we all like to function. I mean, you know, and you're the youngest chick on here. You're 55. The rest of us are all over that. But you know what? You know, at least I can remember, you know, being very energetic when I was young, being able to pull all-nighters, didn't suffer any consequences. And then as you get older, you're leaning in the shower, waiting for the Irish Spring to wake you up, or waiting on the coffee to brew. You know, you get on this product, which is a byproduct of energy production, and it's a biohack. You know, that's how I look at it. Dr. Ralph, I don't know if you think it that way, but we're kind of, you know, we're going around the mitochondria. We're supplementing these. And so what happens is when you fill those coffers up, you start feeling that energy like you were much younger, you know, more vital. So vitality, energy, stamina, you know, like you were talking about, you could play ping pong better. So, you know, it is habit forming. I don't want to be without it. I don't think anybody on this panel does. So.
And in the gene study, when they had, you know, studied it on people for 8 weeks, I believe, and then they got off and it went right back to baseline. I mean, that right there, they were using 8 ounces for every one of those people. And so 8 ounces seems to be, I know for Jim, it was the number that it took for it to signal, which then helped him have relief in his back.
Hey, real quick, Doc, can you explain the significance of the genetic study? How big of a deal was that?
That was a big deal, because not only it shows that the genes are turned on when you're taking the ASEA, but to me, one of the most remarkable things is when they quit taking the ASEA, those genes were turned off or turned down again. Okay. So when you take ASEA, you take these molecules and the genes are turned on. You quit taking the molecules, the genes are turned off. Now, that to me was very significant. the fact that it affects things like the immune system, inflammatory response, cardiovascular health, and healthy digestion, as well as hormone modulation. You have to throw that in because those are pretty important processes in your body. Like I say, I tell people that I've had trouble in 4 out of the 5 of those areas. And if I've had trouble with the 5th one, I'm not going to tell you about it.
How big of a deal is this? And Dr. Ralph, did you have any issue with it being brought to you, not from the medical community, but from outside the medical community? Did you have a hard time with it being network marketing? Does that bother you?
Network marketing, does it bother me?
That this being, we're calling this the greatest medical discovery ever.
Absolutely.
And it's coming to us from my friend 5 years ago.
Yep.
Same thing with Dr. Lee, same thing with Maureen and Bill.
Yep. And I didn't believe a word of it.
Well, I mean, how do you cope with that?
I trusted the person that brought it to me. Okay. She didn't give me an education. All right. But I trusted her. And since I paid for it, I took it like I was supposed to. And it was the results that I had. And I keep coming back to the ping pong. Okay. It's the results that I had that convinced me that I need to look deeper into what was going on. And that's one of the problems I have with being an associate, because I know a lot of the science. And when I start talking about the science, I don't stop. So a lot of times it's just better if you don't have somebody like me who's going to, well, let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about that. You know, I've got all kinds of experiments that I've done with cells that back up this. Okay. But I wonder if you want to know my latest experience with the redox.
We do.
Yeah.
Don't mind.
Yes.
A lot of people are on here because they want to hear this.
Yeah.
This is going to take a few minutes, and I apologize for it.
Good.
But it all started in October on a Saturday when I woke up with an elephant on my chest. And so I got up and took a Rolaids. I mean, that's what you do, right? I had a problem, so I took a Rolaids. It didn't help. So in a few minutes later, I took a couple more Rolaids, and it didn't help. And the problem was that elephant kept gaining weight. So it started to be a little painful. So I took a Tylenol and some more Rolaids. And then I had to take a little heavier pain pill. And that really wasn't helping all that much. But this was a Saturday. I go to church on Saturday night. So they built a new ER just up the street from the house on the way to church. So I left early to go to church so I could drop off the ER and get a super Rolaids before I went on to church. And I got there and they did all the tests. They did ECG, passed, no problem. They did blood test, passed, no problem. They did lung scan, passed, no problem. They did blood pressure, passed, no problem. I had one of these funny things, by the way. That's why there was no problem. So I said, she said, my doctor said, the doctor there in the ER said, but one of your enzymes off. I said, what are you talking about? She says, your troponins a little high. I'd never heard of troponin. Okay. I'd heard of other cardiac enzymes. I'd never heard of this thing. And she said, and we'll have to take a serial look at it and see if it's getting better or worse, whatever. And I'd already missed church, right? Because it took so long for me to have all these tests. So I said, I live down the road about 2 minutes. I'll run down the road and I'll come back in a couple of hours and you can take another sample. And the doctor looked at me and she said it just like this. No. That's exactly the way she did. No. So I stayed there. I got the other 2 examples and they didn't come out good. So they threw me in the ambulance, sent me down to the hospital. And that night, the people came in and said, how you doing? I said, I'm fine, you know. And they said, well, if you feel bad, feel something funny, you know, push the button. I said, okay, fine. So, yeah, actually in about an hour, I was beginning to feel a little funky. So I pushed the button. They came in, 4 or 5 of them, you know, ECG, they checked everything. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you're fine. I said, okay, good. But in about an hour or so, I had the same feeling. So I pushed the button. And here they came again. They did, he said another ECG and blah, 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 but you're fine. I said, okay, good. So in about an hour, I felt that way again. And you said, you know, I'm tired of crying wolf. So to heck with this. Bad mistake. Because somebody sneaked up behind me with a machete and went whack right in the middle of my chest. So I pushed the button. And they said, yeah, you got a problem. And I give them an nitroglycerin. No, it didn't work. Give me another one. Okay, no, it didn't work. Give me another one. Okay, no, it didn't work. Okay, fine. Finally got it eased off. So next day they did a heart cath and a bunch of my vessels in my heart, both the right side and the left side were messed up. So they sent me to another hospital where they could do open heart surgery. So I had quadruple bypass. I asked for a lot more than 4, but they ran out of veins, so I had to stop at 4. But then after that, I was recovering real quick, and they sent me. Actually, I got to go home. My son came up, and he made sure I started eating heart healthy foods, and so and organized all my meds and stuff, and then I was fine. I'd take care of myself. I did cardiac rehab. I had 3 RNs. They hooked up your heart, and you do exercises for an hour 3 times a week. And actually, they were surprised how well I was doing. I always expect somebody to say for your age, right? But I progressed so fast and so far in the cardiac rehab that they were kind of impressed about how quickly I recovered. So I was fine, but you know, a couple of weeks after that, it was a Saturday, and I of course was headed for church, and I was feeling a little on the funky side, so I got to stop by and to see my friends at the ER. Told them I was feeling a little funky, and they did a bunch of blood tests and stuff. Yep, your pancreas enzymes are off. Yep, and your liver enzymes are off. Yep, and your kidneys wanting to get involved. I go, nah. No, I don't want my kidneys involved. So they put me in the ambulance. They sent me over to the hospital. They decided that, yeah, we're going to yank out your gallbladder. I didn't have stones or anything, but they figured it was all coming from the gallbladder. So they yanked it out. And the next day, I thought I was doing fine. The next thing I remember that I was aware of, I was in surgery again. This is my second surgery, all right? They'd already taken out the gallbladder. Now I'm back in surgery. It's the middle of the night. And I found out later that I actually was bleeding, and my hematocrit, hemoglobin was so low, they got concerned and they sent me back for an emergency surgery. Well, what I became aware of was people talking about plasma and units of this and units of that. And I kind of looked over to the side, and I don't know how I did this, but I became aware there was a doctor on my side with a couple of tubes in my abdomen trying to clean up all the blood inside my abdomen, I guess. And everything went from technicolor to gray and white. The white started fading. And I looked over at the doctor and I said, "You're losing me. But it's okay. I'm ready to go." I said it 3 times. It's okay. I'm ready to go. It's okay. I'm ready to go. And the doctor said, "Well, we're doing everything we can do to see that that doesn't happen." The next thing I remember is my bed got slammed against the side of the wall. I'm now in ICU. And this kind of startles me. I said, "What's going on?" And the nurse says, "We're trying to get you as far away from the window as possible because a tornado's coming." I go, okay. That night, the tornado jumped over the hospital, literally over. People couldn't come to see me and wish me well because they couldn't get to the hospital because everything around the hospital was all messed up. Well, I was recovering there. They were thinking, well, we just need to send you to rehab and everything, because now I'd been in the hospital about 2 weeks. That's a long time to be in the hospital. And But the PT finally said, no, you don't need to go to rehab. You're too strong. He was walking up and down the hall, laughing, talking. He said, do you think you can take care of yourself at home? I go like, well, yeah. So I didn't go to rehab. They sent me home. PT came in and I graduated from PT within a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks after that, I went to see my doctor and he actually acted surprised that I was still there. So two things, I have recovered very quickly from open heart surgery, and I have recovered very quickly, okay, from two surgeries on, one was the gallbladder, one where the gallbladder was. I ask you, why am I still here? Because I got out of the hospital just in time for COVID-19 to hit, right? So I've had a run of this, okay? The good Lord's got a plan for me because I'm still here, folks, and I can't but figure that one of the reasons I'm here is so I can come to you and talk your ear off.
Exactly.
But I recovered very, very quickly. This machine of mine, although I kind of figure I was put together with spare parts to begin with, I think my sister and my mother got all the good parts, and my father and I kind of had leftover spare parts. Not only that, I have a cadaver ACL, so not only do I have spare parts, but also I have used parts, and some of my parts are missing. But folks, I'm still here, and I'm still kicking, and I feel good. And I can tell you one thing, the Lord's been good to me, but one of the reasons he's been good to me, one of the ways, is for Pepper to come to me one day and say, you got to try this stuff. And that was a blessing.
And where did you just get back from?
I just got back from 2 weeks in Florida, cruising around in Florida.
Cruising around what?
Pardon me?
Where were you cruising?
Cape Coral in the Gulf.
In the Gulf. You're on a boat.
Yeah, for 2 weeks in a boat.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's
great
amazing.
Thank God that these molecules were helping your healing process.
Ralph, you'll be glad to know I had a similar healing experience with a patient of mine this week. I did 6 implants and put in an upper hybrid denture, and she came in this Wednesday, just 2 days ago, for her post-op. In 1 week, it looked like she hadn't had any surgery. The gums were completely healed.
Yay.
She had no pain. I was pretty amazed. That's very unusual. And she had been on pre-op. We've got a pre-op protocol for our patients that are having surgery. And she healed, I would say, 2 or 3 times faster than I'm experienced with most patients. And she didn't have to take her pain meds but for a day or 2.
How long had she been on the Redox prior to surgery?
This was a short time, about 2 weeks.
Great.
I've had some patients on for a couple of months. This was just 2 weeks just because we knew the surgery was coming up.
How much was she drinking?
Just 4 ounces in the morning and 4 ounces in the evening.
Okay, I'm going to flip gears real quick. What's the financial opportunity with this, guys? You guys were all medical people. Dr. Ralph, you're retired. Lee, what's the financial advantage of doing this? Why are you 2 active dentists? Maureen is doing this full time. Why?
Well, my reason is, once I recognized what this was about, was that this was something that people need, but the way it was put together and offered to us creates a financial opportunity by sharing it. And for me, it creates a residual income. It creates a secondary retirement plan for me, a backup plan. And I don't think, you know, with what we've all gone through here, literally globally, that any of us can say that we're totally safe, that there isn't somebody who can't jerk our chain or cut us off or impact our ability to earn income and pay the bills. And I appreciate Dr. Williams and his expertise in this area as well. I'll throw it to him, but the point is we need a side gig. You know, there's nothing, having people like Dr. Ralph on here who can give us the nitty gritty of the cellular biology that, you know, this stuff really works, it's legitimate. and we have it available and then place it into a marketing vehicle, it's just math. It's math and mitochondria, the double M squared thing.
Yeah,
Bill?
awesome.
Well, I got into it because of the business opportunity, because I've always been interested in multiple sources of income. And I see it as a natural expression of what I wanted to do after I stopped practicing dentistry on patients. I could still minister to people by delivering something that is healthy and brings longevity. And so it fits into my belief system that you're always a helper and you can make money by referring people. And that's a good source of income for people as they get older. I mean, there's some things you can't do when you get older, but you can always refer. And if you can talk, if you can share, then you can tell people the good news. The good news is that this drink helps a lot of ailments. It helps a lot of the pains and aches of old age to diminish. There's nothing better than helping people feel better as they age.
That's right.
Maureen, why didn't you go ahead? There's a lot of feedback here.
Why didn't I?
Come from? I'm gonna mute Bill just in case. You could have gone out and hung your shingle again as a pain doctor, as an anesthesiologist. Why didn't you? Why didn't you go do that?
You know, I actually had decided to get retrained. I went into something called age management medicine. You know, the older I get, the more important it is to be able to age optimally, because we all want to live long lives. We all want to live to be, 90, 100, 120, but we don't want to be in wheelchairs or nursing homes. And so that's a field that really appealed to me. And so I decided to get certified in that. At the same time that I was doing that, my husband, who is also a physician, he's a pediatric anesthesiologist and stem cell researcher, and also a colonel in the Army Reserves, or retired now. He got diagnosed with a life-threatening illness that we're very fortunate that we live close to MD Anderson, which says it all. Excuse me. And they took care of him and they cured him, but the treatment left him very compromised. He went from being an athlete of sorts, former marathon runner, still running 8-10 miles a day, to literally wearing oxygen to watch TV. So when this came about and when Terry Latham introduced me to it, I had tried my hand a couple of times at network marketing. I love the idea of it, but, I just was horrible at it. Everybody's like, oh, you're a doctor, you should be able to sign so many people up and be really good at it. And yet, no, my personality was like, you do it because I said so. I was used to writing orders and having people follow them, not having a volunteer army. So I was like, I am not going down that road again. I just want my husband to get better. I'll share it with a few other people if I think it's necessary. But 6 months in, I had offhandedly shared it with a couple of people and they had amazing results. My husband got his health back. Excuse me. I finished my training and I said to my husband, I'm not going to hang that shingle. I don't know too many people who can afford concierge medicine, 10, 20,000 out of pocket, not covered by insurance. I said, I don't know that many people who can afford that. But gosh, I know tons of people who can come up with a couple $100 a month to have this, which is foundational to having optimal health. I mean, it's like the first step, right? The rest of it is up to you, but you got to give your cells what they need to function at their best. And so that's what I decided to do, and I didn't care that it was network marketing. It was just another way for me to do what I always had done as a physician, which is help people have a better quality of health and a better quality of life. And this allows you to do it at so much higher a level. And you know what? From an income standpoint, there's no limit here. I was limited as a practitioner by how many hours in a day I could practice. Here, there is no limit. You're leveraging other people. And the cool thing is that it's a ripple effect. You're influencing the people in front of you who turn around and they give the gift to all the people they know. And so you're influencing people all over the world just by touching the life of one. It's an amazing thing. So I'm addicted to that too.
Ralph, what do you see the financial opportunity with this?
Okay, well, I look at it this way. I think the answer is in leverage. And what I'm interested in doing is leveraging people's health. If I can tell somebody something and they can do that something and they can have a better health, more health, or they have specific problems, they can get over those, they're going to tell somebody else. And those people their tell are going to be more healthy, and they're going to tell somebody, and those people they tell are going to tell somebody, and they're going to be. So now what I have done is I have leveraged health. And oh, by the way, you get paid for that.
Yes.
And you don't have a problem with that.
I have no problem whatsoever with that. No. I have given this product to so many people, and they won't, they don't, they either won't take it or they don't use it correctly or they quit taking it. So no, I don't have any people. That people need to be invested in the product. Once they have an effect, then their ping pong game is going to improve.
I love it. You know, I always tell people this represents my feelings and this represents the facts. I came into this as an ex-stockbroker, kind of like Pepper. And that was something I always had to do. I just couldn't say, hey, Maureen, I've got a great stock idea. And you go, well, what is it? I go, well, it's whatever the name of the company. You go, well, what do you know about it? I feel good about it. Sounds good.
Good.
And Maureen, I'm asking you, Dr. Ralph, I'm asking you to invest, you know, $50,000, $100,000. Are you going to give me your money? Versus this represents the facts. Now, everything we've said tonight is backed up with facts, right, Maureen? Right, Lee? Right, Bill? I mean,
Yes.
ASEAScience.com. No feelings. It's facts. So what are you going to do with it? And guys, I have no issue with this company choosing not to do advertising, not to do TV, not to do internet marketing. They're using us. And I have no problem with me being able to rescue my retirement plan instead of all this money going to big pharma or going to some other big major corporation. Because when I was a broker, I had a lot of people that got really angry back in the 90s and the 2000s before the market crashed. All these Wall Street people making these hundreds of millions of dollars in bonuses. Oh, they don't like that. They don't like the rich getting richer. But what is wrong with us being able to capitalize on this? Because it's not going to go the traditional route, right, Lee? You're muted. I muted you.
Muted. Yeah.
There we go.
That's right. And you know, had it gone where it was headed in the original biotech research lane down to the FDA to become a drug, had it gone that way successfully, we wouldn't have seen this. It would have been an on-label FDA-controlled product, likely controlled in some fashion through prescriptive methods from healthcare providers. And there would have been 1 or 2 or 3 on-label indications for this that we could make claims and do anything about. And everything else that it benefits, because that we wouldn't have spent, you know, the $10 million in 10 years to research it, you can't really speak to. So now it's flipped to the supplement side, and it's a replenishment of our mitochondria's byproducts. Because of that, we can now apply it throughout the body. Any cell that's deficient can benefit from it. And there's a host of maladies that can be positively impacted, including anti-aging and detoxification. This is the ultimate dream of what Dr. Hayes was doing in the wellness medicine arena. This is the ultimate anti-aging thing. And we now have it in a vehicle, a business vehicle that lets anybody and everybody have equal access to it at a way reduced price. You know, people get bent out of shape because it costs more than $10 or something. And it's like, wait a minute, this is saving so much money. It's improving your health. This is, plus you can get involved sharing it, and your stuff is free.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
Well, guys, we've done another show. I want to thank everybody for coming. Dr. Ralph, you're one of my favorite people all time. And I want to just say thank you to Pepper for
Sure.
talking to you, for sharing. That's all she did was love you enough
Yeah.
to share.
She shared. That was it.
And then she just, anyway, we all love Pepper Black. She's just a blast to be around.
And I do want to say we don't make any claims.
Yes, I was going to add that.
Yeah.
No claim to diagnose, treat, cure anything.
Yeah.
We are a dietary supplement, not monitored by the FDA. So again, we do not make any claims. All we can say, right, Maureen, is that we're giving the body back what the body needs to detect, repair, and replace, take care of itself.
Yep.
So guys, we want to thank you so much. We're going to pop off here now. Next week, we had a sort of a scheduling issue with Dr. Foster and Terry Malmed. They will be with us next Friday. So if you came looking for them, you saw Dr. Ralph, great substitute.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Ralph, for
Awesome.
filling in.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So guys, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Is there anything you want to say, Maureen, to wrap up?
No, just remember, if you're an associate listening to this, you have 2 more weeks to share the gift of ASEA at a great discount for the people you're sharing it with.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't miss out.
And if
Thanks to the
you're-
people that invited you too.
yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Thanks, Dr. Lee. So guys, thanks. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then we will have a little bit of a chit chat after the show. So.